I think we could just jump right in and we can always reset later.
All right. Well, yeah, people are starting to join. Um, yeah, welcome everyone. And at least those that are here. Um, Tonight I'm here with my fellow Substacker, Chris, and I'm Chris, so Chris squared. Um, and Chris B is the official 100th buyer of my memoir. Now that I'm still here, which means Um, he's either a man of exquisite taste or a man who made, or someone who just made a single impulsive decision and is now stuck with me forever. Yeah, one of those two. Um, but I know you, Chris, a bit through Substack. But tonight isn't me interviewing you like a TED talk. But yeah. I wanted this to be kind of a conversation about like, I know you mentioned you had started to read it, like what struck you and how the book found you, what's it doing to you, and what is staying. And but before we get to that, um, like what, who are you? Who are you, Chris?
All right. Well, I am Chris B, and on Substack, I go by Chris B Writes. And basically, I am a dad, a caregiver, a poet, a husband, pickleball player, volleyball player. And basically, I joined Substack in August of 2025 to share more and more of my son's story. My son, Braden, as we call Bray Bray in these parts, is an 11-year-old boy with many needs. He's in a wheelchair. He doesn't talk. He doesn't walk. So I think it's very important for me to give him a voice, to share his story, to share his shining light with everybody. And really, that's why I joined Substack. And the reason I'm here 5, 6 months later is because of connecting with people like you and other great writers on here, where I just love connecting with people. I love hearing about people's stories, and I'm all about authenticity. So here I am, and I'm happy to be here with you, Chris.
Likewise, and I love a lot of this. Like, I may not comment all the time, but I do read your stuff, and I love the how you talk about your son and your journey with him, so it it's some pretty powerful stuff. I often I think I often don't know what to say, so Um, but I do admire the kind of writing that you do about your son, and I find it very moving, actually.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And we'll get into everything about your book as well. But yeah, no, I love just hearing people's stories and seeing where things connect, where I can learn. I'm always about learning from other people, and it's been a great time so far on Substack.
Yeah, and thanks for joining me here. So uh, as a kind of transition, you are officially the 100th buyer of my book, and as part of you're like part B of my milestones. I Uh, I have this little campaign called the Road to 2000. The goal is to try and sell 2,000 books, and for every 2,000, um, I will donate $6,000 back to three different organizations that uh, address suicide prevention, autism support, and in honor of my lady, um, uh, an organization that deals with eating disorders. So, and as part of that, it's I had little milestones. So, um, yeah. So you're part B, and this is great. Um, so, um, like I wanted to start like first with the origin story. Like, how did the book find you? Was it me bugging the hell out of you on a common or thread, or like shaking you like, hey? or was it more like a Substack thing, like doing its thing, shoving two strangers in the same digital bar?
Sure. So for me, one of the things I love about Substack is I'm able to pick and choose, different things to read at any given moment. And I always have been drawn to authenticity. And I think you're a very authentic writer. I think you write from a very honest place and a very brave place. And I think you posted a note that you were at 99 copies sold. So I was like, you know what? This dude deserves it. So I was like, I want to support him. It's all about community, lifting each other up. Why not do something cool like be the 100th buyer of your book? I already knew the book was going to be captivating, just because your Substack posts are very honest, and you've written before about, you know, the things you've gone through. You've written about how your dog Shadow has been there for you through very hard times. And I really wanted to be a champion of that authenticity. So I was like, and then there was also, I want to shout out Sam DeCosmo.
Oh yeah.
She's one of my other favorite Substack writers who's been through a lot. And I actually saw a picture of her with your book when she was, recovering from her own stuff. And I was like getting FOMO. I was like, if Sam's gonna read it, then I need to read it too. So,
Fun fact about Sam. Uh, we also follow each other, and um, we were living towns apart in and so like we we go and get our dog stuff at the same store. We found out, and I used to go food shopping next door to the pet shop where we get our stuff, and
oh
so
wow.
it was kind of like we may have bumped into each other at some point and not realized it. So fun fact.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I support you. I support Sam, and I'm very just grateful to connect with authenticity. And I think that's something that Substack brings to the table that a lot of other platforms don't. And I'm having the time of my life. I've never been more prolific in the last 20 years than the amount of inspiration I've had just by reading everybody else's material, being asked to collaborate on many different projects and poems. And it's just an amazing platform for your book. I think it's great because it enables you to spread the word of something that, you bared your soul in. And there are people on here that are receptive to that, that can learn from that. And again, I think that's a really cool thing.
Oh, thanks, man. I got to do better with accepting compliments. I don't do very well. Uh, but oh, thanks, man. And like, can I ask you something? A little bit of a curveball question. Um,
Sure.
like it, I find what I write about to be terrifying. Like, uh, in a good way, because and I don't like in a I don't know kind of way. Like it, I write about a lot of sensitive things, and um, it's I often feel like it's my attempt is breaking the stigma of like mental health, a man asking for help. Um, in your writing, do you kind of feel that same kind of level of terrifyingness?
I don't know if I feel terrified. What I do feel is that I'm putting myself out there and I'm being very vulnerable. And for me, it's worth it because if I can help other dads and moms and caregivers see that I go through very similar things that they go through, and, my wife and I talk about this all the time how, we work really hard and we make it look easy, but it's the hardest thing we do every day for the rest of our lives. is caring for our sons. So if I can help other people lighten that burden just a little bit, then, it's worth all of the vulnerability that I'm putting out there.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I like your writing so much, because it does come from a vulnerable place, and it I get a lot of inspiration from your level of vulnerability to also be vulnerable. So just I wanted you to know that, because like it inspire like it inspires me to go into those dark places, and I think that's one of the reasons why I think I feel like I started subscribing to you, because I feel like we're both reaching that same we both have that same goal. We're both trying to help different groups of people, right? But at the end of the day, we're trying to help that one person in whatever, like in your path and in my path. So anyway, sorry for that curveball question. I was just curious. It just like popped in.
Oh
Anyway,
no, I'm good. I'm good. Let's go.
yeah. So um, first impressions and surprises, right? Um, so you open it,
Hmm.
then what? Like um, what hits you first? Whether it be emotionally or mentally, what got you going? What
Yeah.
hits you?
So I cracked open the book a couple of days ago. I had a very, very busy holiday season and we spent a lot of energy on some stuff with Bray Bray, but I immediately cracked it open and I was very impressed by the prologue, first and foremost, the way you set up the entire story. It was absolutely one of the best prologues I've ever written. Usually prologues are afterthoughts. And I thought it was a fantastic prologue and it made me want to read more. So for me, the thing that really stuck out to me the most when I first read it, you have one line in there that says, healing isn't linear. And I've been coming to grips with that in my own journey over the past 2 years. And I didn't realize what I was going through until I joined Substack and realized, wow, I have a lot of unresolved issues from when Bray Bray was in the hospital. Not just his hospitalization, but how it affected me, as well as some of the things I saw at the hospital, being in the pediatric ICU, other families losing their kids, and I didn't. So there was a little bit of survivor's guilt that I had no idea that I was dealing with. But when you said healing isn't linear, it was either in the prologue or the very first section that stuck with me because that's the journey I've been going on. And it's very relevant to what I'm going through right now. And I think it sets the tone that like you say, I think in the prologue as well, that this isn't going to be neatly wrapped up in a bow. There's not going to be that full house happy ending at the end where they play the music and what's the lesson you learned because the lessons are still being learned. So
Hmm.
I really enjoyed that kind of introduction where you're saying brace yourselves in your own way. And the way you introduced that theme really stuck with me because I knew what I was getting into, which is a story of breaking and how do you come back from it?
And um, one of the annoying things I found of getting help, right? And I'm a firm advocate of getting help. Uh, but one of my observations was that uh, they give you tools and to get out of the mess you're in, and they say if you do this, 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 and this, you'll be great, you'll be fine. And I mean, they're right. They're right. Like if you apply these tools, you will end up fine. But it's that they present it in such a linear way that I was very unprepared of how nonlinear healing was, and and it's something. And I structure the entire book around that. It's very uh, it jumps from one memory to another because you could be sitting in a coffee shop, uh, drinking a cup of coffee on your journey of healing, and you might hear something, and it'll throw you back somewhere else. And that's one of the things I wanted to illustrate with the nonlinearity of healing. So
Yeah,
thanks for catching that.
and I really liked the way you did that because I mean, I'm like that too, right? I think it's the human condition that not it's not a straight line. And on Substack, there's a lot of people dealing with a lot of different things. Some people deal with grief in different ways. Other people are dealing with, adversity in different ways. And I remember speaking with Lynn Broderick. Hi, Lynn. I see you.
Hey, Lynn.
Uh, I remember I remember speaking with Lynn Broderick about grief, and the way me and Lynn connected was basically me pointing out a song to her, and then it like opened the floodgates to her in a way that she maybe wasn't really expecting. So that whole human condition is definitely apparent in the book, and the way you structure it, I think is absolutely perfect for you know what really goes on in our minds.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think we go on forever on this topic, but in the essence of time, uh, like I was very curious, from your perspective, like was the tone from what you read so far, was the tone very surprising? Um, or what what caught you? Did the voice or the tone catch you off guard in any way?
No, I think again, you set it up where I knew what I was getting into. Plus, I know you're writing, and I know you've gone through a lot, right? So I'm not really I'm not really surprised by the tone that anything took. Um, if anything, I'm grateful that you're still here with us. I think you need to know this because I know that there are times where there's going to be ups and downs, ebbs and flows, but I'm just grateful that you are here with us and we're having this conversation, and that's very important. One thing that really struck me in the book um, was the conversation you had on the roof with your friend Alejandra.
Oh yeah.
Basically, you were talking about going on a trip with the church group, I believe, and she said something that I thought again set the tone for the entire premise of the book, which is the line that she said, "Don't lie to yourself to keep other people comfortable." And I feel that sometimes in our lives, we receive advice before we are ready to hear it, and yet that advice stays with us and resonates so that when we're ready for it to sink in, it's still in there somewhere, even if we have to shake it out. And I think it's a very underrated part of developing self-awareness and growth is collecting a thought, a quote, a conversation that we've had in the past. The fact that you were able to recall that conversation and probably still do to this day, I think, I think that just to me there's a lost art of real conversation because nobody has these conversations anymore. Everybody's in their corners of social media and they're not talking live like we are, or everything's polished and everything. Nobody's building these like organic memories anymore where that was like a unplanned conversation on a trip that you learned something that you really needed to learn, if not at that point, then later on. And so what really stays with me in your book is again the authenticity. It's very easy to read. And it's basically the art of being very emotional while being very relatable. So I just think, you deserve a lot of credit for putting yourself out there and kind of remembering some of the things maybe that were hard for you to remember. But then there's moments like that that made me think, like think about those kind of conversations too, and there's a balance there.
Yeah, and two things, right? Um, I it that memory came back after a conversation I had, and this is gonna go to her head, I swear to God. It 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 came after a conversation with my mom, actually. Because one of the things that's very difficult for her to understand is this whole concept of autistic masking and what it meant, right? And I still have a hard time explaining it because, you know, it's how do you make yourself digestible for the rest of the world, right? Who may not understand um what masking is, right? And
Hmm.
I think if I remember correctly, her question was, "Well, isn't that kinda lying?" And it was that question that, like, triggered that memory for me of, in Spain, and I had later added that, when I was making after that conversation. So,
Hmm.
if my mom is I hope my mom isn't listening because she's probably gonna be like, "Oh, I inspired this,"
I also wanted to point out one other thing I really liked in the book was the setup and the callbacks that you created with the dark passenger and the whisperer. And I thought that was a really cool tool to drive the story forward and flesh out kind of the deepest emotional parts of the story. So, like, as specific as you are with the details of everything you've gone through, you also have these elements that crystallize it very well, and so it makes the story unique, but also universally relatable. So you're taking something that you've gone through in a very specific way and making it accessible to all of us. And you're letting us in emotionally through the dark passenger and the whisperer and all of the different thoughts that we have in our heads during different times in our lives. And you're right. There are things that happen to us that cause trauma, and those voices can be there. And it's how we manage those voices that, can really make or break us.
Yeah, and it, um I wanted part of the origin story of the Dark Passenger is what I called what I call the Dark Passenger is it's autistic masking, but at the same time, like, I in writing this, I was thinking a lot of, like, what part of it was autistic masking and what part of it was that internal narration of, like, that's societal pressure, to be digestible. Then it was like, are they all both in the same or what? So it's because I wanted to show what autistic masking really meant, and I I think it's so interconnected
Hmm.
and so blurred that it's hard to say, no, this wasn't masking, and this was just that internal narration, um, or maybe it was just both. I like,
But you know what? But you know what the beautiful thing is about writing is once something's written, it's open to interpretation. So regardless of what your original intention might have been, it's very valuable to kind of leave it ambiguous so that the reader can come to their own conclusion. And I think that's actually a really cool thing is when I can choose, how to interpret it without it being spoon fed to me. So I think it's like a really cool thing in the book, whether you meant it or not, that it can mean either or. I think that's
mhm.
actually very powerful.
Yeah, and then the terrifying part was, could this be misunderstood as me going crazy? you know? Uh, and
I didn't
and
sense that at all. I didn't I never sensed a loss of like faculty or a loss of control in that way. Um so I don't think it comes across that way at all.
yeah, it it's really been like the lens I see the world through, and kind of that need to filter myself because I can be so easily misunderstood, but it's like, um, a way to keep myself very guarded and very there's no ambiguity, in that, but and sometimes there is. But at any rate, um, this is one of those topics I could talk all a lot about too, but, um, like, I don't know, um, so far from what you've read, like, and only share what you're comfortable sharing, but did anything land closer to the home than expected?
Um I would say let me see here because I did take some notes.
Oh,
Um and I want to make sure I know you did ask me this while we were preparing. So let me just take a quick look here.
under segment 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really, I mean, the thing that hit the closest to home, I think, is we all have our demons, we all have our crosses to bear, and it's really just, the way you were so brave in telling that story, it makes me want to be even more brave in telling mine. Because you definitely put yourself out there and tackled a lot of hard things that like really happened to you. And that authenticity is something that can't be replicated, right? It can't be faked. It can't be done by AI, none of that shit. So, it just, what really hit close to home for me was the vulnerability and just that authentic way you talk about really, really difficult things. And also, obviously, the the love. Okay, so there's a love story in here, and it's interesting the way love is portrayed. Because you have what's really not love, right, with the marriage, and then you have what really is love, which maybe you weren't sure about because of your previous situation. And that love story to me was so relatable and so human. And I just feel like, you know, I went through that myself a long time ago where you're maybe not understanding of what real love is because you've never actually experienced the grace of actual love that someone can give you without judgment. And I definitely felt that, when I was younger, I went through that very, very, very much. And I think we all do to a point when we're in our 20s, um, especially, just our normal cycle. And I definitely felt that. I felt the love that you didn't know was love, uh, and how to come to grips with that after being beaten down and broken down by other things before that. So that's something that really resonated with me.
And for me, I was very suspicious of it, right?
Hmm.
So much so that I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. And in this love story happened right after, uh, shit hit the fan, right?
Yep.
Um,
Hmm.
and I was still a hot mess, and so, like, my logic was, well, if I'm gonna wait for the other shoe to drop, uh, how can I mess this up, right? uh, and and so I did. I messed it up. I um, you know, I and this is hard for me to admit, but I misled her because my self esteem was so low that like I didn't even feel good for about myself, and and it's I never got to tell her that, and the and it was one of the reasons why I wrote this book. It started as a story to her, to just be like, look, I want you to know me and why I am the way I am.
Hmm.
And so, like, once you get out of this hospital bed, you and
Yeah.
I can work together. And it was set up in such a way where she was going to ask me questions, and that I was ready to answer for her.
Hmm.
The day I finished her chapter, or or it was completely different, because it implied a future together, and what I saw that future being either, um, us together as a couple, or us friends, um, or and it I just wasn't prepared for her at all. The love she gave me, the sincerity she approached me with, and her seeing like through me, and it was the first time in a really long time that I felt that. Um, there were little nibbles like the Turkish girl. Um, it was also really good for me, and uh, the the girl in Jacksonville was also very good for me, and um, she ended up dying, um, on on and no one can blame her for that, but it's like she never got to hear that story. And so it's, how do I carry her how can I turn this into a legacy for her? And, it turned it made me reframe things into, like, living with a lot more integrity, with a lot more, like, and being more unapologetically me, because
Hmm.
that's how she was.
One thing I want to talk about real quick that I think relates to this, that maybe this can help in some way, is there's a movie, I've referenced this before. There's a movie called Winter's Tale, and the premise of the movie is that people were born to be other people's miracles,
Mhm,
and you never know what form those miracles will take or who they will be. And I've said this about Braden, my son, that he might have his limitations, but he was 100% born to be our miracle. And what he's taught me through his shining light that he has showed us, and without being able to talk, without being able to walk, you know, he's made us better people. He's given us that integrity, right? So I just want you to know that this could be a case where she was your miracle. And even if you think she never got to read your chapter, somewhere, somehow, she did. And she's with you. And what you're doing to keep her legacy going is great. So, there's that side of it too, that sometimes things happen that are completely unexpected and we might not be ready for them, the good, the bad, whatever it is. But all we can do is carry on and take what we've learned from these people who are our miracles and, become better for it.
What's it called? Winter's Tales?
Winter's Tale.
Hmm.
It's a great movie. It's probably my top five underrated movie of all time that is in my top five. Love this movie. I watch it at least 3 or 4 times a year, and it's just incredible.
Hmm. I'll have to look that up. Thanks for you always have some good recommendations that inspire, Chris. um,
The highest compliment I can give you is when I because the way my mind works, it's like a slot machine of like pop culture and stuff. So like if I can relate to a song or a movie, like to me, that's like the highest form of praise because I'm connecting and I'm relating to things that mean a lot to me personally. So, that's high praise.
oh, thanks. I making me blush, man. Uh, um, but oof, yeah. Let's switch topics before I fall apart again. Or before I start falling apart. Is there like so far from what you read, has it changed anything on how you think about survival, grief, identity, recovery, any of that?
I would say I've learned a lot in the past 6 months from people like you and Lynn Broderick and so many people that I had the pleasure of talking with and becoming friends with on Substack. And what your perspective brings to the table from this book, you know, it kind of reinforces how hard it is to be in a system that wasn't designed for you. And you talk about this a lot in the book. And I think it's actually one of the most powerful parts of the book is how do you learn to love yourself in a system that wasn't built for you? And you tackle this head on. You do it with ferocity, you do it with humility. It comes from lived experience. The fact that you talk about going from like Bolivia and all these other countries to Massachusetts, the fact, just from an early age, the fact that, you felt that mask was being put on you from a very early age with your family dynamics, the fact that, your marriage was like that, you know, the fact that you overcame all of that and had the bravery to tell this story. I think that's what I take away from it is, you know, the system might not be designed for you. Well, in that case, fuck the system.
I I think, and that's a whole other can of worms. But I think that in 2020 or 2026 now, I was going to say 2025. That we haven't even considered readjusting the system to fit us in. Those of us that are different, those that have special needs, like
Oh, trust me, trust me. I see it with my son on a daily basis. You know, I've told this story before, Chris, but they tell us that my son is stopping breathing multiple times per night, and then it takes 13 months to get in a CPAP machine because they want more data. So,
I
yeah,
remember reading that actually.
yeah, I get it.
Like, what more? Like, he stopped. Like, more data isn't gonna change the fact that he's stopping breathing 13 times a night, right? Like, what do you want it to go?
Yeah,
Like 14, 15? Uh,
yeah, exactly.
but, uh, but like, why is it? Why haven't we asked? that question, why is it this way and why haven't we done anything to try and fix it? Or why are the people in charge not trying to fix it? And it's annoying as hell. But um I know it's not something that we'll solve in tonight's conversation either, but it's incredibly frustrating and incredibly exhausting to navigate. Like as someone on the receiving end, I mean,
Yep.
of it, but also like I can't imagine for you as a parent. Like I'm sure you want to like choke the doctors, choke like
Well, it's not the doctor's fault. It's the system that the doctors have to placate to get us what we need. And it's the bureaucracy and I could go on for hours about this, but long story short, everything we've ever needed for my son has taken either, I would say, minimum 8 months to a year and a half. So me and my wife have to think about what does Braden need in 2 years and think about it now because that's how crazy it is.
the level of frickin' forethought you have to be. You
Yeah.
might you, that that in itself exhausts me just thinking about it. God damn.
Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, let's take a detour, Chris. Uh, a little. um, like, what kind of reader are you? Like, are you like a highlighter, Bennis? Are you a page folder? Like, are you a pristine book purist?
I
Or
am a fast reader. I process information and sentiment very quickly, mainly because I've always been a reader. I loved reading and writing. I was the vocabulary workbook lover in elementary school. I was an English and creative writing major in college. The funny part is, I don't read that much anymore in terms of the long form books because I had to read so much in college. Like I had to read at least 200 books. And I just don't read as much as I used to. However, what your book has inspired me to do is take another look at people's autobiographies, because I found a lot of value in reading your writing because I feel like it's very relevant. Like, I don't think I could go and read a lot of novels like I used to, but books like yours, I'd rather read your book any day of the week than, one of those like celebrity biographies that people lap up. I will say this, there's one author I followed recently, like in the last 5 years, where I've read every one of his books and I loved every one of his books. There's an author named Max Barry,
Max Barry?
and Max Barry, there's three books in particular. He's kind of like a modern day Kafka, where he writes
Ah,
very, very dystopian books in a very palatable way, and it's very brilliant writing. He has one called Company. uh, Basically, it sets place in an office building where the dynamics are completely reversed, where the penthouse is on the first floor and the top floor is for the grunts. And that just sets up the premise of what's going on in the book. There's another one called Jennifer Government, where everybody's last names are now sponsored by who sponsors them. So you don't even have your own last name anymore, which I think are probably very close to having. Like instead of, our name, it would be like Chris Amazon. And then there's another one called Machine Man, where this guy gets so into technology and what it can do that he loses his entire identity. So the guy's a brilliant writer. He's really the only current writer that I'm up to speed on. But I am a fast reader. I process information very quickly. It doesn't take me long to get the sentiment behind a story. And again, your book, Now That I'm Still Here, available now,
oh, he's
everybody,
got it.
right here. It's definitely making me want to read more stories of even my Substack friends if they have books out that are about their stories and their paths. And I always admire long form writers because I'm a poet So I have a book right now that I'm working on. It's 30 pages and 30 poems. I don't do like the, you know, 400 pagers or when I joke around when people are like, "Oh, my memoir is 80,000 words." And I'm like, "God bless you." Because my writing style just isn't that. Like I tend to say more with less. But yeah, so the only thing I'll say about my I don't bookmark traditionally. I do the old school fold the page, you
Oh, you're a
know,
folder,
I'm a
page
folder,
folder.
so I fold the page to keep my spot. That's just I've always done that. So I don't need the fancy bookmark to keep my spot.
Hmm. You kind of answered my other question that I had of what do you normally read, but let me twist let me put a twist on it. Have you ever read any Aldous Huxley? Like
Brave
Brave?
New World. Yeah,
Yeah.
Brave New World. Yeah, so like all of those dystopian books, I mean, Brave New World, Anthem, uh, all that stuff. I've read Fahrenheit 451, like all those kind of books. Kafka's The Trial is probably my favorite story of all time. Also The Lottery in Babylon by Borges, you know. Those are the kind of things that really resonate with me is when people are writing about the dystopian system of things. I've always gravitated towards that. I mean, if I go way back, I mean, I was introduced to Edgar Allan Poe at a very young age, like many people. Flannery O'Connor. I always loved her books. Um, so, it really just depends. Shakespeare actually, to me, was a better poet than he was a playwright. Unpopular opinion, but I love his poems and I grew up on his sonnets even more than Hamlet and all that stuff. So,
Fun fact. I used to live uh, and went to the bar where Edgar Allan Poe had his last drink before
oh,
they found him. It was it was called the Horseshoe came in on in Baltimore, right on
oh wow.
yeah, right in Fells Point. So I used to live in Fells Point, and
So
that was
when they asked him if he wanted another drink, did he say nevermore?
nevermore, nevermore. um, no, it's and I theoretically you could go to his house where he lives, and it's haunted allegedly. I'm into that weird
Oh,
crap
I'm not
of
surprised.
um, but like I think you know, this question about what you read, like I love Edgar Allan Poe, and I think I borrow a lot of the darkness from him and Aldous Huxley in the terms of like how they frame the darkness and
I
um,
can see that.
yeah,
I can definitely see Poe's influence in the book. Because he would totally have capitalized on like the Dark Passenger, the Whisperer, all that. That is like vintage feeling of Poe. So I can see that.
yeah, it's I and sorry, my I'm also battling sciatica, so sitting down is like really hurtful. Anyway, um, but if it wasn't for Baltimore, I don't think I would have even considered reading. I became such a nutty fan of Poe that I I chase these little speakeasies for Edgar Allan Poe. Like I don't know if they have it where you are, but here in Massachusetts, there's this theater company that takes a lot of his stuff and like puts it like they act it out and it's so
Oh,
fantastic.
gotcha.
Yeah, and they like pair it with like a thematic cocktail and things like that, and it's I nerd out on that stuff.
If
Anyway,
if you have Netflix, The Fall of the House of Usher, they turned it into a
yes,
series. That was really good.
that was really well done, actually.
Yeah. Mhm.
Especially the Black Cat one. Oof.
Yeah, anything Mike Flanagan does is fantastic. So he did that. He did Midnight Mass. He did Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, and the movie The Life of Chuck, and it's all awesome. So,
Midnight Mass was actually really good. I didn't think
oh,
I was
that
gonna
was
like it.
so good. And the monologues in there, I say it all the time to my wife. Those monologues, like every time I revisit that show, they're just so good.
Especially I was gonna call him the preacher, but the father, like, when he
Oh
does his
yeah, yeah.
homilies and things,
Oh
holy crap.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's chilling.
Yep.
Anyway, um, how did we meet, Chris? How did we get in contact?
Yes,
I
I
couldn't remember.
okay. So I remember this because we were in my community chat. So my community chat, Crispy writes for subscribers. You could be a free subscriber. Uh,
Mhm.
it basically, I've tried to make it a very active community where I started this a long time ago when I like joined Substack. I had zero subscribers. I'm like, hey, I'm Chris. Here's my community chat. Let's go. And whether we had 10 subscribers and now I'm up to 1,200,
Dang.
it was just a place I wanted to build where we have a daily prompt, a daily conversation, and I literally say, you know, share like today's Tuesday, so I did two for Thursday. Share one post of yours and shout somebody else out that you like. So that's one example. But I remember we talked because I mentioned pickleball, and I believe you made a pickleball reference to me in the community chat. I'm like, oh, a guy named Chris that also plays pickleball. So I then remember following you, subscribing to you. And then I think one of the first posts I ever read of yours was about Shadow. And I know Shadow's been very popular on Substack.
Oh, yeah.
But
She
your
she's
post was, yeah, your post was about Shadow being there for you through thick and thin. And who can't relate to a dog being there, you know, for you, for their best friend. So I was very drawn to that because I'm a dog person. So yeah, I think it was because of the community chat and then just connecting over that. And then I, over time, right, I've read a lot of your work. I know you did a series on grief with Lynn Broderick and a couple other people. And so it was just like natural. Like when I find somebody authentic, that's who I want to jive with. That's who I want to follow. That's who I want to tap into. And that's what I've been doing for the last 6 months is if somebody just captures my eye and they seem authentic, then I'll reach out or start reading their work. Do you remember? Do you remember any of your first introduction to me?
I I think I followed you because you wrote something about, your son,
Yeah, I'm sure.
and and I remember thinking, "Fuck, this dude loves his son." Like, like, really loves his son.
That is a
Um,
true story.
yeah, and so I really like how you framed it, so, like, I was like or I think I remember it being a post about, feeling exhausted, but being grateful to do it anyway. It was I think that was the whole messaging behind it,
Yeah. Hmm.
and so I was like and it gave me pause to think of, like, I'm going through my own process, like, am I grateful for this? Or, like, what is there to so I was like, "This guy's making me think, subscribe." And
Oh,
yeah, and so and then I saw your community chat, and I was like, "This asshole likes pickleball too. Yay." Yeah. And so, like, um, that's how I talk to myself too. I call myself worse names, but, so then I liked what you were doing with your community, and I really liked that, um, that, like share your post thing, and I've tried. I don't do very well with my group chat, man. I was
By the
trying
way,
to.
I reshared your post today, the gospel according to pickleball.
Oh yeah, I saw.
So yeah, that's a good one. So anybody who is looking at sports as a metaphor for the what we go through in our lives, the pickleball court is a great example of, where you can find friends for life just by showing up.
I do have another one that's more of my favorite. It's the called the myth in the middle. Uh, the myth of the middle, which is all about when the when the ball goes in the middle, like who takes that shot, like who's
Yep.
like, and like what you learn from that hesitation, right, of not taking that shot and not calling the shot, and so that's another pickleball one. Um, but oof, we have to land the plane, Chris. Oof.
All right.
Um, so um, who is like kind of like what's it like to be the 100th buyer, and who, in your own words, like who would you say that this book is for?
Sure. So it's not about me. It was about supporting you. So I'm very honored to be the 100th buyer just for that reason. And I said here, I think this book is for the recovering misfits looking to feel seen. And I said that it's also for people looking to relate to the actual human struggle. And if anyone is too sensitive for the darker side of humanity and only wants fluff, then this book is not for them. But if they want authentic, actual lived experience with hard earned truths, then that's why you should read it. And then uh, one other thing I said was if I was going to text my friends, I would say, read this with a photo of the book cover. And then I would just say, and I quote, it's fucking good.
You are hitting me with compliments. Like I'm not sure if I deserve it. So you're making me blush. Anyway,
No, it's
um,
good, dude. It's good. I would not, I would not be doing this, if I didn't believe in it. I think your book is great. Your story is very, very much relatable and important. And just the other part of it is, the fact that when you get to that milestone, you're going to also be doing something good. So it's like a win-win-win for the reader. And I really do think that. So again, when you put out that call, like there's 99 sold, I was like, why not be the 100th buyer? And I'm very glad that I was.
yeah, and I think what I think what inspired me to do this whole campaign to try and sell 2,000 books is, and just bringing it back to something we talked earlier, is the system is messed up, like, and gaining, like, people have to wait a long time for access, and sometimes uh, people don't have time, or they don't have the funds for to get that access when they really need it. And so I got something here, where, like, it tells a story of what's it like to overcome mental health challenges. I've
Yep.
and like I am not a writer. Like I should say I have never seen myself as a writer because I always felt my writing was shit. But um, if and that's just my personal opinion. Uh, but like people seem to like this, and I want to be able to give something back to people that can't get the access that they need because our system is fucked up. And so that's where this road to 2000 came in, and it's causes that I really care about, like suicide prevention. Like
Yep.
they since 2000, the suicide rates have gone up 40%, and it's largely due to lack of access. there's people struggling uh, to find resources and get resources for autism and autism support. And tied to that, there are people out there that struggle with eating disorders that like
Yeah.
without Katie, like this wouldn't be this wouldn't be a thing. And I I got to see firsthand like how terrible that is too, and like people need support all around that. So
You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy? What's crazy is these are issues that have been around for so long. I remember all of the sitcoms in the 80s and 90s tackling eating disorders and suicide prevention and all this stuff that has just manifested even worse just because of social media and all the other shit. But I remember the Fray had a song called How to Save a Life.
yeah,
Uh, Anyone going through something, that song was a savior to a lot of people I know. There was Jumper by Third Eye Blind, another one that I know for a fact helped some of my friends who are battling depression. So, you know,
even
there's
Lincoln
so
Park
many,
did one.
yep, Lincoln Park, like so many people. And, and you're right. It's a travesty that more hasn't been done, but that's the whole mental health system has unfortunately been that way.
Yeah, and so like for me, that's what I care. Like I care about two things. Like okay, like I want I care about reach because like my hope is that this lands on someone's hands that um is still battling that dark. Like I still battle that a lot. And like what and if you can help one person, like that's enough. And um I had a moment where I ran into a lady who bought my book and she interjected herself and I use the word in a light way. I was talking to these two young kids that were in their 20s um, about the book, and she came up at the coffee shop and was like, "Hey, I read this book, and like it helped me stay."
That's
And
awesome.
and like I was not expecting that. Uh, um, she had bought my book at the book launch that I had, and um, these towns are so small that you bump into anybody. And anyway, it like shocked my system that like it anyway, I need to write about that actually.
If
Yeah.
nothing else, if nothing else, that's already the biggest victory, you know? So, the reach, yes, the reach is good, but just that you reached that one person already and that they told you, that's everything, man.
Yeah, it's anyway. So the other thing I care about is like I want to give back. Right? Like
Yes.
if anything, like I think I've done enough taking to last a lifetime. So like now how do I give back? Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah. So yeah,
Well, your way. You're on your way.
it is so frustratingly slow though. But I'll get there.
Yeah, but you know what? That's I just did a post about this. Like, I'd much rather have the audience I'm building organically with, you know, my blood, sweat, and tears than any kind of. I'd rather have a small audience that cares than a big audience that is vast and vacuous and doesn't contribute. So
I'm trying. trying to embrace that
You
small
should.
audience, because I get so frustrated when I post something and people leave, and it's like, why are you leaving me?
Yeah,
But
you can't worry about that. It all
yeah,
comes back tenfold. And you know what? Your heart's in the right place. Your book is honestly, I mean it, your book is already a raving success. Just the fact that you just told me that a person that who maybe would who di if they didn't read your book, they might not be here. Just think about that. That's incredible. You already saved somebody's life and probably more other lives that you don't even know about. And that is worth any amount of subscribers. That's worth any amount of sales. That's real and that's
yeah,
awesome. So give yourself that credit.
yes, one day at a time.
Exactly.
Well, um, I don't want to take up too much of your time, Chris. You've been super generous, and thank you. And like, really, like, people should really check you out because the stuff you write about, being a caregiver and being and just giving your son a voice. It's admiring. It like like I don't have any kids, and it made me want to I it touched me. Like um so
Well, I appreciate that. And listen, I think caregiving is a very underrepresented space in the literary world. And I'm blessed enough to have the desire, the will, and just I won't give up, advocating, for kids like Bray Bray and just for people in general who are going through the caregiving struggle, whether they're parents are sick and they're juggling their kids and their parents at the same time, whether they have a kid like Bray Bray, I just think it's so underrepresented, especially from the male perspective, that I just think, it's very important for people to just know that yes, this is hard, but I wouldn't trade him for the world.
and that's freaking special, man. Like that is like true. That's you being a good dad. Like,
Thank you.
and we need more, and we need more like people like you out there doing like sacrificing everything they've got for their kid. I mean, people do that, but like talking about it and showing it and like showing what it means to step up even when times get rough and despite the challenges. And I think you do a pretty good job at that. And how exhausting it is. Like I love how honest you are about the exhaustion of it. Like,
You know what though? One thing Ray has taught me is he has smiled at me during the toughest times of, and it's kind of taught me smile through it, not to put on a mask, but just because you know what? Like he's just such a shining light that I can't help but smile when I see him and all the other stuff I'm dealing with, all of the paperwork, the bureaucracy, the back issue from lifting him, all that stuff, it all goes away when I see his smile, which is pure as anything on this planet. And it just reminds me that life is short. We got to enjoy it. And, it's not even about it's just transcendent what he does for us in our hearts. So again, like your authentic writing is very inspiring, and I'm just trying to come from a place of authenticity with my work.
and I think that's why we're two peas in a pod. So I highly suggest that people follow you too. So they can find you at Chris B Writes, right?
I am Crispy Writes on Substack, and I'm around. I'm present. I love talking to people, having good conversations. Feel free to join the community chat if you want to subscribe for free. That's fine. and introduce yourself. Hey, I'm from here. This is what I wrote about. I love that. I love just like I love one time I did a roll call, like, where are you from? Blah 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 blah. Like, New Zealand, South Africa, Chicago, Northwest Illinois, all over the place, Nigeria. So it's so cool having people from all different walks of life just coming together to celebrate each other and be supported and lift each other up.
Yeah, and I'm really appreciative of your time, Chris. Thank you for even
Yeah.
agreeing to do this.
Hey, life is good. And again, everybody, if you haven't already, Now That I'm Still Here is a great book. You'll learn a lot. You'll support a good dude with a good heart and a good
I
cause.
got my own
And
copy
his
here too.
dog is and his dog is awesome. So
Yeah, she's great. She's hiding in her fort back there. I built her a fort.
I know I was kind of hoping for a shadow appearance.
Oh, hang on. Well, we can make that happen. Oh wait, hang on one second.
I did this for you, everybody who's watching.
Turn living room on. Let's see. Did not work. I'll just use the light switch. Siri is not working. Here's Shadow. In her fort.
Oh,
Say hi, Shadow.
there.
Let's see.
Shadow, what's going on, girl?
Yeah, she's like, man, I was
Oh,
napping. So
that just made my night. That's awesome.
yeah. Well, thanks again, Chris. And thanks to everyone for joining us and staying past this, hour mark. But
All right. Thanks a
anyway,
lot, everybody. Appreciate it.
thank you. Appreciate you, man. And keep
All right.
writing.
Take care. Life
All
is
right,
good.
bye.